My name is Xavier Cortada, and I am an artist, a socially engaged artist, an artist that tries to use the elasticity of art to work across disciplines to reframe the way we think and work together to problem solve. And specifically, the problem I'm trying to solve is the existential crisis that Miami faces in a changing world, a world changing by climate change and sea level rise. I called it the Underwater Homeowners Association. I could have just as easily called it the Sea Level Advocacy Group, you know what I mean? But what I wanted was to organize a folks of people who wouldn't be involved in politics or in environmental issues to take ownership of a problem. Like if your neighbor sees a number 6 in front of your house, your neighbor knows that you too are a number 6. So you're no longer a Democrat or Republican or an anti-science or pro-science person. You're both literally standing at the same elevation. So what I was trying to do is just shine a light on this whole process. There were realtors who were upset about me doing this because they thought it would have a negative impact on their sales and their property values. And in my mind, all I kept on thinking about was, so where's your ethical duty? So it's okay for you to sell a house and you sort of hide, you know, what you don't want the buyer to know.
That's Hialeah, right? 3, okay.
What did you do?
Oh, I just, oh my God!
Yes, it is an art project, but I think that the strength of the project is being able to bring people together.
I'm hoping that you will all make signs today, and then hopefully put those in your yards, and then have a chance to talk to your neighbors about them when they say, "What is that funny sign in your yard?"
When I say I try to make the invisible visible, because of the way that we've developed Miami-Dade County by pouring asphalt into where the natural flows of water across this community, we don't have a sense of how the water flows and, more importantly, how and where it will rise. So by giving you a visual, by mapping, by putting markers, talking to you about the elevation of Miami-Dade County across the entire spectrum of our community, you begin to visualize your vulnerability, your community's vulnerability, and in so doing are empowered to do something about it. And the way I ask you to do something about it is by putting a sign in your front yard that has the elevation of your property, so that when your neighbor sees it, it's not a conflicting political sign, and it's not even a for sale sign. It's a sign that says, I am standing at this elevation, which means so are you. And hopefully that's a catalyst for conversations for them to begin to try to figure out how to address the issue of rising seas inland when they thought they were inoculated by the distance from the bay. But they're not, because now they know what their elevation is, and if their elevation is the same as it is at the coast, they're as vulnerable as the coast.
Short drive from denial downtown to bargaining, depression, and acceptance in Pinecrest.
I live in Pinecrest. I'm at 11.
I'm 80.54 feet.
My name is Sealfits. I'm 9.
Where neighbors have formed America's first Underwater Homeowners Association.
I'm at 7 feet, lower than I thought, to be honest. My name is Judy, and I'm here for hope and for inspiration.
There was some really negative response where people recoiled and say, why are you doing this? You're going to hurt us and hurt our property values, which I found to be part of the cancer I'm trying to cure.
It is the brainchild of artist and activist Xavier Cortada.
What's happening in our community?
The Before water covers the street in the next century, there'll be an aquifer below it that will not give you the fresh water that you drink in these homes. And before that happens, there's going to be a flood insurance rise. As that happens, there's going to be property value devaluation because all of a sudden the psychology of a house being an investment is going to be starting to turn on its head.
Now my home is in danger, a whole bunch of homes next to me.
The fear is palpable here in Miami. So what I wanted to do is give people a mechanism for coping and dealing with that fear and preparing for the inevitable.
I also create processes, these meetings that I convene, so that people can come, learn, talk, share ideas, but more importantly, begin to figure out how they're going to work together to solve those problems. And that is what the Underwater Homeowners Association is. It's a series of processes, starting with you taking a nap, figuring out what the elevation of your property is, taking that, making a sign, putting the elevation of your property on the sign, making you courageous, making you audacious enough to say, I am living in a vulnerable home. Announcing that, letting the truth be out, and then being empowered to do something about that with your neighbor day after day. I do that because it's easier to ignore the problem. But there are too many who will suffer if we don't begin to address that problem today. So by creating these processes, empowering people, bringing them together, talking about it, I elevate the conversation, I make it comfortable for us to talk about it. And when you do that, I think we start moving society and humanity forward. Miami will suffer in the decades to come. It will suffer more if we do nothing about it. I want to create processes where we begin to understand what's going to happen to Miami-Dade County, and I want policies that find an equitable answer to that. Some people know what the problem is, and they're hedging their bets. Other people are clueless. There has to be policy that addresses the divide of what will happen to some properties and what will happen to other areas of our county. And that policy has to be equitable so that if someone is going to lose everything and someone else is going to gain, there is a process that elected officials develop to manage that. If we leave it to market forces alone, which is a solution, I do believe that the vast majority of people in Miami-Dade County will suffer because they don't have the access to the information or the resources to move. And I want us to begin to understand how, as a community, we solve this, the greatest problem that we have facing us.
Leading scientists from across the globe gave the planet a final call, stating that drastic actions required in order to avoid a climate change catastrophe. This week, we meet the artist bringing climate change right to the front doors of one small American town.
Well, if you're not sure what to do with all those political yard signs now that Election Day has passed, a South Florida artist has a suggestion. Simply turn them into reminders about the threat of sea level rise.
And in South Florida, an artist is asking people to turn their old campaign signs into yard art. But the art is also aimed at starting a conversation about sea level rise. It's part of a project called the Underwater Homeowners Association. The artist behind the effort is Xavier Cortada.
Xavier Cortada is asking, what is Miami's artistic response to the crisis of our time? The crisis he's talking about is sea level rise.